What's up, everybody? It's Silent, and as some of you might know, 3 years ago I made a big move from New York City, the Bronx to be exact, to Puerto Rico. And naturally, I've been posting Puerto Rico videos throughout my journey living here, and I've been getting a lot of questions and comments regarding moving. Was I able to adjust? What was the cost like? Is it dangerous? What areas are nice? Why did I move? And I said, you know what? This needs to be a video, because while I enjoy replying to people and interacting, replying to the same question over and over again, it's easier to just put it all in one video so that you guys can watch it, and new people who come along will have all the answers right there in front of them. I moved because it was time. When I first came to shoot the documentary in 2014, I believe, I fell in love with the island, the culture, the weather, because I was sick of the cold in New York. And I was just like, man, if I could live here one day, I would do it. After coming for a couple of years and actually staying in La Perla for 5 months, about 4 to 5 months, I lived there for 4 to 5 months. I said, wow, I could really live in Puerto Rico. So a few years later, actually the year, maybe a month or so before Hurricane Maria hit, I had came to look at some apartments, well, like two. But I ended up not taking it, which worked out. I was able to not be here for the hurricane. Such a horrible tragedy. A while later, I decided to just go ahead and make the move. I was like, you know what? What am I waiting for? Like, I'm sitting here thinking about money, thinking about, not having family there, friends. And then I'm like, yo, you don't have no kids, you're not married, you're not tied down to a job. The time is now. Every day you get older, every day life goes by. Life can end any moment. So you've got to live now. So just do it. Just step out on faith and do it. So that's exactly what I did. I did not have no money. I'm not rich. I'm not like, I just want to be clear with you guys that are watching. This is strictly on some stepped out on faith. I did save up maybe 1,000 something, just because I knew when you get an apartment, you're going to need like first month's rent, first month's security. So I just took it as, okay, my limit would be $600 maybe for the highest for rent, even though you can get stuff for cheaper. But we'll get into that a little further down in the video. So yeah, I basically saved $1,000, and I said, well, I'm going to go out there. And I was able to stay in a friend's house for a week, thank God. And then after that, I stayed I had an aunt that I just had reconnected with all these years in Puerto Rico, and I didn't even know I knew someone here. Reconnected with her, and I stayed with her for, I think, another 2 weeks, or maybe another week. I think my friend I was with 2 weeks, and then with her I was with 1 week. Either way, it was like a 2 or 3 week period that I stayed with them while I was searching vigorously. And I mean, I was searching for an apartment here in Puerto Rico. So with that said, I want to say, I'm not telling you to, it's not for everybody to step out on faith. It's not for everybody to step out with just a couple of bucks in their pocket. It's not everybody to just make a big jump like that. But I would recommend it if you're someone like me who can handle going with the flow type of thing with life. That's something that I've always, I just know, like, okay, it's not going to be smooth sailing. I'm going to probably struggle. Do I really want this? Am I really going to fight through the struggle? Am I going to be able to handle it? If so, then yes, I would say make that jump. And especially if you have someone you can stay with for a week or two while you're searching, definitely do it. But I have heard stories of people who just come out, couple of bucks, they don't even have a place to stay, they just get an Airbnb for 2 or 3 nights, because you can get stuff for really, really cheap, $40 a night, $70 a night, and just look, which we'll get into in a minute. I feel like I'm ready to tell you all the answers to your questions as I'm talking. But I do understand that there are people in this world who feel like they have to save an excessive amount of money, or at least a decent amount of money, and who feel like they have to kind of pre-plan more so than just taking the jump. That's not bad either, because you can search online for apartments. You can reach out to people online as well. So whichever of those two is more your forte, I say go for it. Either way, please go for it. You know, life is about taking chances. And 9 times out of 10, the chances we take are going to change our life forever. So the first question I'm going to answer is, did you adjust well to the change from living in the States? Good question. I get that a lot. Now for me, I had already been coming to Puerto Rico for a couple of years, as I said, shooting the documentary here and there. So I was already aware of what the adjustment would have to be, if any, what my surroundings were like, what the weather. Have I stressed the weather portion of this? So yeah, I was able to know what the weather was like. So for me, it wasn't a huge adjustment. It was already, of course, something is way different when you're living in it, but it wasn't too much of a difference of when I would stay or vacation or just come for the documentary. So the adjustment level wasn't too much for me. And the thing about Puerto Rico and what I'm assuming about most Caribbean islands is it's very laid back and mellow. And as a person, that's just how I am. You know, I'm silent, I'm cool, I'm chilled, I'm laid back, I'm mellow. I'm not too crazy, you know what I mean? So for me, it was perfect. It was like, oh man, this is what I need. I was sick and tired of the hustle and bustle of New York City. I love New York City. There is no place in the world like it. But I was definitely tired. I was tired of it, you know, working hard. And not to say you don't work hard in Puerto Rico, but it's just a different type of vibe. And I was ready for a change. So yeah, the adjustment wasn't too much for me, and I was ready to just kick back and do things on my terms, so to say. Even though you could do that in New York, but it's just a different mellow vibe out here. The next question I've gotten a lot of is the cost of living in Puerto Rico. Now this is a tricky question, so to say, because it really depends on where you choose to live. Kind of like New York, you know, certain areas is cheaper than others. Although in New York it's kind of expensive anywhere. But for instance, in Puerto Rico, I live on the northeast coast of the island, which is the San Juan area. And it can be a tad bit more expensive than other areas. But if you really search high and low and really dig deep, you can find places that are affordable even in the most expensive areas. For instance, Old San Juan, that's a historic district. And it's a tourist area, so of course it's expensive. It can go anywhere. I've seen rent reach $5,000 a month in Old San Juan. But I've also seen places that cost $500 or $600 a month. So if you really dig in deep, you will find it. Because when I was searching, I found a place in Old San Juan that was, I believe it was $600 with water and electricity included. And that's a steal if you ask me, especially coming from New York City. I know a lot of people in Puerto Rico might think 600 is a lot, but someone coming from New York City, or depending what other areas you're coming from, 600 is going to be extremely cheap for you. Other areas that you can find some affordable housing is Santurce, Miramar, Calle Loíza. You might get lucky on Condado, there's some places. Bayamón, Guaynabo, Carolina, Isla Verde, you know, those are all kind of like in the metro area. And a good place to research even before you get to the island is Clasificados online. You can look up apartments whether you're renting or if you're looking to buy, and you can look them up by price range, by city, by area, by barrio, and it kind of really breaks down what you could get. Let's say you put $400. It'll show you exactly what you could get for that price. And I'm sure other islands around the world have something like that. If you Google, you can find that out. As far as places to live, now, I don't know too much of the entire island, but like I said, the metro island is a little more modernized in the sense of it's more like a city life. It's a lot more touristy, so there's a lot more things that are close by. There's public transportation, buses, there's a train, tren urbano. I mean, it's only 16 stops, but it takes you a pretty decent distance. The last stop is Bayamón, and you start at the first stop, which is Atorrey in the San Juan area. Ubers, you know, those things are easy for you to get around. Now, if you want to go further out west, let's say like Rincon, Boquerón, Aguadilla, Cabo Rojo, that's more of like, at least from my experience, it's more of like a beach life type of things, like surfer dude. No, I'm just playing. But you get what I'm trying to say, that I don't know how to describe it, but it's just very carefree beach life. That's what I see it as. So, and it's hard to get around. There's no public transportation. There's no train. Ubers are probably harder to get because everything is at such a distance. Sure, each section has a little town area, but if you don't have a car, it might be a little harder for you to get around. As far as pricing, I'm not quite sure, but I've heard it's cheaper more out into the campo areas. Another good way to find apartments is walking around. You probably might even get something faster that way. That's what I did. I did some online stuff, but since I was here for that 2 or 3 week period, I was able to go into each certain town area, mostly Old San Juan, because I was trying to live over there at the time, and I was looking for the rent sign, for rent sign, and you will see for rent pretty much everywhere you go. It might not be a lot, because even in Condado I was looking around and I saw like maybe 1 or 2, not a lot, but you'll see them in the windows. Bayamon, I looked around, even though that was a little further away from me, but I was just looking since I was staying over there anyway. So yeah, if you look for the for rent signs, you'll see them around, and you can just call the numbers, and they actually work. They will actually, these people are really trying to rent out to people. And another thing that you can do, which I wish I had known, but everything worked out for me, but there's a lot of Facebook groups. Like there's Puerto Rico expats, there's and there's these groups for everywhere in the world, like Egypt, Japan, like you name it, there are Facebook groups for travelers, and they'll help you and give you tips as well. Another question that I've gotten asked a lot was, what areas were safe to live in? Now that, I can't tell you about every area because I don't know every area. But what I will say is researching is key. Google will help you with anything nowadays. So you can look up each area, each community, each barrio. You can look up news articles for that area. If you maybe have any friends who live in Puerto Rico or who might have visited for an extended period of time, or me, and they can tell you what areas are good. But yeah, definitely use Google and research. You will know just by what you see, a lot of reviews, people who've traveled and visited there, other people who've lived there. You might come across some YouTube videos, but you will know where you can and cannot live at least for your own safety. And also, I would say, if you're going to come visit before you go to move, check out the community. Wherever you're thinking of living in, go take a stroll, And don't always judge a book by its cover, because you might walk into a community and it just look really quiet and rustic and kind of torn down. But that doesn't mean it's a bad community, There's a lot of places in Puerto Rico that are just, I call it character, you know what I mean? Some of the buildings are unfortunately looking like they're on their last leg, but you go inside and it's just this amazing space where you're like, whoa, I could fix this up or whatever. And from the outside, you might think, oh, this is a sketchy neighborhood. That's not always the case. So don't always judge a book by its cover. Do visit. Do spend time there and just see the surroundings and talk to people. People tend to help. If you speak to them with respect, approach people with respect, go to the different restaurants in the neighborhood maybe. You can talk to people there, in the stores. It's easy. Do it. Another big question I get is about the job opportunities here in Puerto Rico. Now, I personally work for myself. True Exclusive, my company, my videography work. That's how I get my money to pay my bills, to live my life. But the 9-to-5 situation, I don't know too much of. I will say, I've heard from people who live on the island that it's not always easy to get a job. But I will also say I am constantly seeing help wanted signs, at least in the little tourist shops in restaurants. They're constantly looking for chefs, waiters, waitresses. So if that's some sort of thing you would like to do, maybe bartending, etc., something like that, I think you can get a job if you're in the touristy area. As far as other stuff, I'm not 100% sure how that goes. I'm not sure about building a career in a certain field here. I do hear doctors are very slim to none here. So maybe, I don't know if that works to your benefit, but I also don't know if there's not many doctors because they're leaving the island because there's not money for them here. But I will say the tourist shops in certain areas that are looking for help, they would appreciate bilingual people. So great, you know English. They really love that because tourists come in a lot, but you need to brush up a little bit on your Spanish, learn some key words. And you can do that just on YouTube or any type of Rosetta Stone or any of those type of learning a different language programs. And if you're like me and you're a creative person and you work online, maybe you have an online business, maybe you do candles, maybe you do canvas art, maybe you do photography and you sell your frames, you know, any kind of online creative internet type thing, I would say you're pretty much good coming to the island because you're living off of your computer, so to say. Which leads me to my next question about the Wi-Fi on the island. Now, as far as where I live in the San Juan metro area, Wi-Fi is pretty decent, pretty good. I haven't had any troubles. You know, I'm able to upload my videos and they're like 1080p, big files, couple of minutes, nothing crazy. And actually this is a tip for you. When I first came for the first 3 weeks, I didn't have Wi-Fi anywhere. So I was getting free Wi-Fi. I would take my laptop to Wendy's, Burger King, Starbucks, any little cafe area and get the free Wi-Fi and do all my work. Sometimes I would be out there for a couple of hours. You know, there's a little place in Old San Juan where you can sit outside at the table and use their Wi-Fi, and I would be there like office for the day, you know, in this amazing place, in this amazing island. So there are ways for you to get free Wi-Fi if you don't even want to pay for Wi-Fi. You just want to set aside a couple of hours to do what you do online and then just go back home. But if you want to get Wi-Fi at home, there are plenty different internet options for you to pay for. They range from $10 to $40. At least I pay the $40 because I want a high quality internet. There might be more expensive, but I don't know about those because I am not paying more than $40 for internet. Now, let's talk about getting around on the island. If you drive, you are fine. That's if you have a car or if you're willing to shell out money to rent a car, then you're good. If you don't drive, like me, I know, horrible, I'm gonna learn eventually one day. But if you don't drive, you know, it can get a little tricky. If you have patience, the trickiness, not so bad. We'll start with Uber. Uber is pretty dependable for the most part. I will say lately in the last month, I don't know if it's because more tourists are coming or I just don't know what it is, but Uber has been the rates have been going up high and the wait time has been tremendously long. Like I've waited 25 minutes for an Uber at one time. But also, it also depends on the time of day because there have been times where, let's say I wanted to go to a mall and I put it in and it says $35 and I'm like, oh, hell no. And I'll wait 10, 15 minutes, check again, and it goes down to $8. So that's what I mean with the patience. Patience with everything is gonna work in your favor. But I will say going to a further distance can get a little tricky because sometimes when you go far, Ubers are not well, let's say you're in the metro area, right? It could be easy to take an Uber, let's say, to the rainforest, which is 40 minutes away from San Juan. But when you get to the rainforest and you're done and you want to come back home, it might be tricky to get an Uber because there's no Ubers around there since that's not like a metro area. So that's where it becomes tricky. You got to really use your judgment if you want to take that much of a risk, which I haven't done. I don't go that far. The furthest I've gone in an Uber is like Bayamon because I at least know that eventually an Uber will come or I can just walk, even if I got to walk an hour to a bus station or something or a train station, I'm kind of okay. Not where it's something 40 minutes away and there's just no way in hell I'm coming back. There's no way I can even walk back and it's just not going to work in my favor. Buses. Now the buses, there are a few bus lines that kind of take you around most of the metro area and a little further of a distance. The only thing is with the buses, they do not run on a set schedule. They could tell you they run on a set schedule. They can give you that set schedule, but they do not run on a set schedule. So you can literally wait for a bus anywhere from 4 minutes to an hour or 2 hours. And I've waited 4 minutes to an hour to 2 hours for a bus. If you have patience, it will work for you. If you don't have patience, it will not work for you. There have been times where I've reached the bus stop and it's come literally 50 seconds later. So it just fluctuates. It just depends what time of day. I will say morning time buses seem to be around more excessively. Certain buses are more frequent than others, like the T3 is frequent. The what's that other one? Is it the T9 to Coupe? I think is frequent. The T21 that goes from Old San Juan to Sagrado Corazon is not as frequent. The D53, which takes you to the airport, by the way. So if you're traveling, visiting, or whatever, and you want an affordable way to get to your hotel, if it's in Condado or Isla Verde, you could take the D53 bus from the airport, and it'll take you through that area all the way to Old San Juan. And it's only 75 cents. So yeah, if you have patience, you'll be good with the bus. The Tren Urbano. Now, this train only goes 16 stops from Hato Rey in San Juan all the way to Bayamon, and it stops through Coupe, Rio Piedras, Dominic, the university, and that in-between area, 16 stops. Pretty decent. You can see things. That's a good way too to explore certain neighborhoods. I've gotten off in different stops throughout my 3 years and just took a long walk just to see the areas and stuff. Not to move, but just to see something new. I was exploring a lot. The train is pretty consistent, pretty frequent. The times of when it ends changes because of COVID, and the curfew. Things have been changing a lot lately, so just check out what time is the last time. And I know when there's concerts, which we haven't had in a while because of COVID, they stay open a little later for people who are leaving the concert who take the train home. So that's my advice for the public transportation of train and buses and Ubers. But if you have a car, you're good to go. Come teach me how to drive. Another question that I get asked a lot, or just that I've seen a lot, is making friends in a new place on an island. As with anywhere in the world, it can be hard to make friends, especially as an adult. And I've been saying this for years, even when I was in New York, like, how the hell do you make friends as an adult? Like in school, it's easy because you're friends with your kids. Not your kids, with the other kids in the class or whatever, and you're seeing them in activities. But there's your first tip. If you want to make friends, maybe join some classes. You can join a yoga class. You can join a fitness class. You can join an art class. There's a lot of classes and things you can take online. You can look them up online and meet people that way. I don't really talk to people a lot. I'm to myself a lot, which works for my benefit sometimes, but it works more so because I stay out of the drama, all of the bullshit. I got to deal with people's crap. But I do want friends, so it becomes tricky that I don't talk to people like that. But I will say the few friends that I've made have been through just seeing people on a daily basis, or just a couple of times here and there around the community, walking my dog or just exploring. Or even when I was doing my La Pela documentary, I connected with a lot of people. I even connected with some people online. There's a lot of Facebook groups you can join, and with different topics, or just centered around the whole island itself, and you can connect with people that way. And what else? There is a language barrier to a certain degree. Most people do know English, but there are some people who don't know English. So brush up on your Spanish so you can reach out to these people and talk to them. Hola, ¿cómo está? Buenos días. At least know the basics. So yeah, that's what I would say to make friends. So I hope I answered all of your questions, guys. That concludes the video. But I want to leave you with this. At the end of the day, you'll be living in paradise. And if you have the patience and the faith and you can keep hope alive, go for it. Take the chance. And don't settle because something is going to come along. Know when anyway, you're going to know this is the place for me or this is not the place for me. So I wish you all the luck in coming to the island. I hope I answered all of your questions. And if I didn't, let me know in the comments and I can do another one and answer some more questions if I left anything out. And let me know if you come to the island. Maybe we can be friends. Maybe we can just, chit chat and I can help you with anything you need help with as far as tips and questions and whatever the case may be. Thank you so much for everybody who has been supporting my new channel, Travel with Silent. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe, your family. Likes and comments and shares really, really, really help a creative person in what they're doing. It's really hard out here to get content out to the masses because there's so much material out there, so much content. But if you like what I do, if you like me and you support me, I appreciate if you can share my content or just keep liking and commenting. I see the guys that support and I really appreciate you guys a lot. And there's so much more to come. And yeah, so that's that. And that's me living in Puerto Rico. And those are my tips.